morning, Star Mindsets. This is another fun episode. We're doing episode 104, I believe, today with our guest, Sergey Demyanov. And he is an entrepreneur who's had a successful exit before. He sold, I believe the company's name was Teleport to Snap Inc. And he's got a good, rich history working for Snapchat in the machine learning space. Now he has a cool company named Beagle, which is revolutionizing a lot of the workflows that lawyers, I guess you could say, had in the past, but with the implementation of AI and just new software tools, it's going to be very interesting to see where this space leads us. And yeah, Sergey's a really cool entrepreneur, and I just want to say, Sergey, thank you for your time today. Welcome to the Startup Mindsets podcast.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about who Sergey is, just coming from like where you grew up and like, a
Yeah,
little bit more into that?
sure. Yeah, I grew up in Russia, actually. And after I graduated the university there, I started my PhD in Australia. And it was my first overseas trip, actually. Yeah, it was a big deal. In Australia, I spent about 5 years where I completed my PhD and also worked at IBM Research for some time after that. And then I moved to London for a short period of time. That was the moment when I started working on that startup. And after some time being there, once our startup was acquired, I moved to LA, to California.
Yeah, to work for Snap, right?
Yes,
It
yeah,
was it where
exactly.
you was the office out in Venice Beach, or did you guys have another office?
Yeah, well, at the moment when I moved there, it was already not at the Venice Beach itself. It was a little bit far from there, but still pretty close. It was Santa Monica.
Nice. Has that been your favorite office that you've had, or favorite workplace, or?
Well, yeah, the office was nice. Like the place was great. It was cool time.
Yeah, Sergey, tell me a little bit about how you started as an entrepreneur, or you said you worked for IBM, but then you founded a company named Teleport, and then you I guess become a employee of another company through the acquisition. And tell me what like led back to the switch of going from there to the entrepreneur stuff again with creating a company named Beagle. And yeah, that's an interesting career, right? Like when somebody does one exit, you think that's it, but now you got another one to work on.
Yeah. It was a different scale, I would say. So, like our startup was not very large, and once we were acquired, I happened to be in a much bigger company, which I haven't earlier worked, like which is Snap, and I would say it was a pretty big difference from what I felt how it was at Snap and before at IBM. Snap was much more agile at that moment. I saw all of these dynamics and how teams are trying to reach some new goals, like start new projects. So in some sense, I still had that feeling of a startup inside Snap. And I would say that I decided to leave. At the moment when I started to feel that actually, yeah, Snap started to turn slowly into more like a, corporate style company. So that was probably, yeah, that kind of pivotal moment. I thought that I need to start something my own.
Do you like working for yourself more than I guess the corporate top-down approach? I guess like similar work, right? Like right now you do a lot of engineering work, I'm assuming, and a lot of management work, but how would you say that that was different, or right now is different from the time you had at Snapchat, just because it's an interesting life entrepreneurs live?
Yeah, so at Snap, uh, a lot of things are, of course, done for you, right, by other teams, other departments. So you don't have to worry that much about like finding clients or your marketing strategy, like and paying contractors, things like this. but you are still focused on a product. That's your core responsibility, like to do what you were asked to do. And of course, as a CEO, you have to do much more. You have to keep in mind a lot of things that you wouldn't care otherwise. But this is also makes things more interesting. And yeah, I think it's yeah, it opens a lot of other opportunities as well.
Do you find it a lot more challenging as like a founder rather than, you know, being an employee, or how do you perceive it? Because
Oh,
maybe
it's
you,
definitely more challenging. Yeah, but you know, I also have to say that I probably at Snap I was in somehow unique position that my particular team and the department which I was working at, it also had quite a lot of freedom in terms of what to do and how to do. So it still felt a little bit like startup inside startup. So we were working on machine learning applications in computer vision and developed some of those famous Snapchat filters, like, and some of them became viral. So actually, no one really told us what exactly to do. Like we were brainstorming that, and of course we were discussing that internally, but it was not like really top-down procedure. Oh, like you need to do this and this, and of course no one told us how to do that. So in some sense, it still felt like a startup where you come up with the idea, you make it, and then yeah, there is a support with marketing, with distribution, of course, because all of these were launched on mobile devices, which we didn't have to worry that much because that part was handled already. But yeah, still we had a lot of freedom there.
when you, Sergey, if you could compare and contrast like creating a product as part of a larger organization versus one or two person team, how different is that? Maybe is it different because there's a lack of hands on the job to work with or people to work with, or is it different because something you just want to get to minimum viable product, right, as a founder?
Yeah, so it's an interesting comparison. I think in my position at Snap, as I said, I had a lot of freedom, but we still had to communicate with other stakeholders regarding, oh, is it going to cause any issues, like, for example, brand issues, or like, is it gonna cost us too much? Like, are you gonna like how quickly it's going to work on mobile devices, for example, that we have to cover all the corner cases and things like this. And at the startup at Beagle, where I am right now, I think it's more gradual, and like we can afford to release a product which, as you said, would be just minimal viable product, because again, we are a startup and we don't have that much reputational risks as a bigger company like Snap. But I believe, yeah, we will probably move to something closer to that, where we also have this reputational risk, and there will be more strict rules of what can be shipped.
Gotcha. I want to talk about, Sergey, just about I guess like a trend in the market, which was the AI explosion, or like machine learning as well. How do you think that whole industry, you know, got so popular? Because there's I'm sure you knew of the technology a lot more than others before it became mainstream, but just from your perspective, what do you think it was that makes this such a trendy topic or investment or
I
space
think
for people?
everyone was just super excited with the capabilities of AI, and when ChatGPT exploded, I think it created a lot of this buzz that, oh, see how capable is this. And I also believe that it's it's quite impressive what the current AI models can do. I wouldn't see it coming that fast, frankly saying, even though like the whole idea of of building the company based on AI capabilities for the legal industry had been with me for a while already, like even earlier than I joined Snap. But yeah, like even I was impressed, and I think yeah, probably not like immediately, but in a time span of like 5 years, we will see a lot of changes in the industries which became possible due to this emergence of AI.
What how is AI different from, I guess, like being an engineer and writing code? Like is that engineering process different, like with machine learning or working with that?
Yes, quite a lot. It differs quite a lot. Um, so the process of developing software is much more predictable and much more, kind of deterministic than the process of working with machine learning. That's why you have all these practices of software development where you split the development on some particular phases. Okay, now you do this, then you do this, and so on. In machine learning, it's totally different. So yeah, if we are talking about like developing our own models rather than simply using what has been developed already, like through OpenAI API, for example, you have to care a lot about the data. And that's probably the biggest challenge there. So what would you do is you kind of iteratively try new approaches for training and new ways of kind of composing the data for that training. That was a part of what I was doing at Snap. And you may not have write that many code itself, but rather you would play with the data, like trying to kind of assemble the right proportions of particular data parts in the data set that you have, that you don't kind of have biases in what is the result of it, or you write code to get new data, in some other way, maybe you artificially generate that, or yeah, you kind of play around that, and your playing might be around one parameter, literally, but then you kind of launch multiple experiments, you see how that goes, and so on, so on. So yeah, it's more like an iterative process, and that's why like common software development practices, they're not that much applicable to machine learning development. Of course they are, in terms of like having this code and developing this code to launch that, but yeah, still there are a lot of differences.
When it comes to differences, what do you think are the main differences? Is it just kind of what you said, like working with having data sets, or is it just a really brand new, I guess, tool and I guess a brand new style of engineering that needs time to get used to, or just people to teach down, or
Well, if you know how to do like programming, you have all the capabilities for developing machine learning applications, like technically, but you need to understand what you do. It's very important to kind of understand what's happening under the hood and where the problems, if you see them, where they might arise. So if you don't have this kind of fundamental knowledge about ML, you may spend a lot of time on doing some things which won't help you. But yeah, I would say in terms of software engineering, it's pretty straightforward.
Gotcha. Let's jump into like how Beagle helps the legal industry. So you guys have been around for four months, or is it a little bit under a year?
So the company was founded this year, and yeah, some discussions were before that. We had some concepts, of what this could be, of what the product should look like. So yeah, but active work has started like about this year.
Oh, nice. And can you tell us a little bit more about Beagle? Like what kind of problems it solves for the legal industry? I know that it's really new, right? So it's kind of hard to
Yeah, yeah,
particularly say what it is.
yeah, sure. So I would say that the whole process of e-discovery um, hasn't changed much in the recent years. Of course, yeah, there was a switch from just regular e-discovery to e-discovery, which is about working with electronic documents. And yeah, this switch has been for a while, but still, like the process overall looks like you collect the data from your client, you receive data from the opposite side of the litigation process, and you as a law firm need to analyze that. And the most time-consuming part of that is actually to figure out what data you need to send to the opposite party, because in the average civil litigation lawsuit, there would be something about 250,000 documents, and you need to figure out what to do with them. So just a little bit of summary of what's happening. Both sides, they are sending what is called request for production, where they describe which documents they want to receive from the opposite party. And after this exchange is happening, both sides can prepare for the trial. And this process might repeat multiple times. So it could be that, the law firm looked at the data, decided, oh, we also want that portion of the data. And then they would get that one. So it might repeat multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I said, it's pretty standard to have about 250,000 documents that you need to evaluate against those requests for productions, which describe what documents the opposite party wants. Like a large portion of that can be kind of filtered out automatically, say 80%, but the remaining 20 would be still 50,000. And what is happening right now is that human reviewers, like contract attorneys, they manually look at each of them, and they manually decide if it is what is called responsive or not responsive to those requests. So you can imagine that this is a very tedious and time-consuming work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also a huge portion of the client's expenses to kind of do that. In addition, the quality of this is not very high, because a reviewer usually spends about 2 minutes per each one. So you can imagine the document might be like, 50 pages long, or it might have some
Oh, right.
important details. Like in the beginning, you probably won't be able to catch those, right? If you spend just 2 minutes and do it like for 8 hours long, what would be your attention after that, right? So yeah, it's a pretty time-consuming process. And in addition to that, when those documents were filtered out, you, for example, want to do search from what you received from another party. Again, what would you do? You would just type your search queries, like using some keywords, and you would say, I want this keyword being like 5 words from that keyword. Show me all those documents. And yeah, you would get a list, and you would go over them one by one. You might have been not very good at composing those requests, right? And you usually do it until you start seeing that the documents are repeating each other, which is, again, pretty time-consuming process. And yeah, from this point of view, nothing has changed for a while. And I think the changes will definitely come with this new generation of AI. So both of those processes would probably be looking quite differently in like 3-5 years time span. Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. I had a friend who's a lawyer, and I asked her, like, what do you think about this type of stuff? And I guess it's relatively new, so it's hard to come up with like a real opinion. But I mean, my friend Nikki, she wanted to ask me, or wanted me to ask on the show, is for discovery, can Beagle assist in finding the evidence for the issues that the attorney is trying to address, or is it mainly
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our goal is simply to make the whole process as efficient as possible. Yeah, there are multiple ways of how this can be achieved. So I already mentioned document review. So this can be automated pretty well. And, we did the case study on like 500 documents where we gave for those 500 documents to human attorneys and also evaluated them with Beagle. And what we realized is that Beagle was actually way better that the human reviewers could do. So the human reviewers identified a lot of what is called false positives, like those documents which they marked as responsive, which actually should not have been produced as responsive. And Beagle was much more accurate in that. So yeah, I think this is the first part where Beagle can help with just document review. And when it comes to finding evidence, there is a number of tools that Beagle provides for that, like natural language questions, for example. You can ask that, for example, what is this person knowledgeable about? And you would get like a human readable answer with some evidence on the documents that, okay, this person knows about that and that, and here are the supporting documents and so on. There are other kind of ways when we analyze the whole corpus of data, and we can provide you kind of summaries about particular topics, like, oh, there were like communications about that, and you can get quite meaningful insights even before you start looking at the actual documents. Like, you would be able to figure out where to start from. I think it's pretty valuable.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. Sergey, one question I had was, how did you come up with the idea? Not necessarily the idea, but how did you realize that this was a problem worth solving? Did you speak to a lot of attorneys? Did you just do a lot of independent research, or how does this become something you realize that could be
Yeah,
solved at a mass scale, you know?
sure. Yeah. So it was about 2016 when I started to kind of trying to figure out what could be the next big thing in machine learning after computer vision applications, because my PhD was about applying deep learning to computer vision. Yeah, there was already a lot of progress there. And at that moment, there were two things which were really impressive. The first one was AlphaGo. Maybe you've heard about that. It's the program developed by DeepMind, essentially the neural network, which was able to win against the best Go player, which it's a game which was considered to be pretty tough for kind of algorithms. And another thing was some papers and the results in natural language understanding. I was quite impressed with the results. Like, even at that time, imagine it was like 5 years ago. It was possible to kind of ask natural language questions about a column where that row would be something else, things like this. That was pretty impressive. And I was pretty convinced that this technology definitely can be useful in legal industry, as legal industry involves an analysis of big amounts of documents where you just need to read the text, you need to understand, you need to kind of connect the dots between different documents. You need to enable kind of search over them. And this is where my initial thinking was about. I was also very inspired about applying this in the legal industry, because I think it's kind of the area which serves to achieve justice. And everyone complains how expensive it is, to participate in the lawsuits and all these court proceedings. And if there is a big imbalance in the litigants, especially if you talk about for example, small litigant against a large corporation. And just because of this difference in their financial abilities, right,
Yeah.
and the cost of litigation, those big companies have much more power in the litigation process against small litigants. And I think if we are kind of able to reduce that gap, make it more affordable, it levels up the field a little bit. And I think that like the whole this goal is pretty important for the society.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very, very interested in what legal or Beagle does for legal. But quick question, Sergey, was how does is Beagle being used currently by attorneys or law firms, or is it still in a beta mode or?
So yeah, we already have clients. Yeah, we are working with them. And yeah, obviously we are planning to expand. But yeah, right now we are focused on serving the clients that we have.
I got an entrepreneurial question. So, like, once you get a client, how do you figure out like what to price their product as? Is it based off of use, or is it based off of like law firm size? Is it just based fixed price for everybody?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that there are several principles. The first of them is that the price should reflect
Sure.
the price should be convenient for the client, right? So the client, ideally, it should pay for the value it gets.
Hmm.
And in our case, yeah, it would be a value for kind of volume of the case. So if you have a large case, you would pay more. If you need to review a lot of documents, you would pay more. Because what clients don't like is like paying for nothing. For example, it's applicable to license fees. I heard this feedback that everyone hates license fees, and it is just because it might be that at some moment of time you need to add like one or few dozen of attorneys just to speed up your work, and you just have to pay for each of them, which is pretty annoying, considering that you already probably pay a lot. So yeah, I think yeah, this is the first principle. It should be kind of proportional to the value that the platform provides. And second is that we also want to make it right for us, such that we are not in a situation that we would kind of pay more ourselves, be negative in some situations, given our pricing structure. Because if we do, then it means that we have to rise the price up such that we cover potential losses on particular use cases. And we don't want to do that because we want the price to be as low as possible, but it requires us to have this confidence that we don't lose money on each client. And yeah, this is kind of the
Hmm.
strategy, how we are
That's
thinking about pricing.
that's a very good strategy, yeah. And for I guess like in under a year, yeah, it's very impressive how the company's progressed. Wanted to ask you, Sergey, like what do you think it is about being an entrepreneur that you enjoy? Because I think there's a lot of uncertainties, right? When it comes
Yeah,
to will this product work, or will you land clients, or will you have enough money to before you run out of it. So
yeah.
for you, Sergey, was this were those any of those areas that you struggled with, like I guess maybe funding the idea, or um figuring out how to, I guess, continue with limited resources, things like that?
Yeah, of course there are a lot of challenges, but I think yeah, usually for startuppers, the most challenging part is raising money. And I would say that my past at Snap has helped me a lot, at least so far. Like in fact, I think half of our current investors they worked with me at Snap, and at least one more decided to invest because they heard positive feedback about me and like my colleagues. Yeah, I think I was lucky in this sense, having that background. But yeah, the challenge, at least in this particular market, I think, is with the clients, and yeah, this is still a problem that we will need to work on. So far, yeah, I think we were doing quite a good job. Let's see how it goes.
How did you approach, I guess, like, is it market, you call it marketing, or is it just client, I guess, landing sales, right? Like, is it is it more of a, you do
I would say
you
it's a
just like
sales strategy.
yeah, what would this say? Was it more like a cold outreach, or was it more like, how do you call that,
So
referrals,
yeah,
things like that? Go to
so
market, you know?
yeah, I think there is no golden bullet here. Like we have to rely on multiple ways of doing that. Like we are planning to use all possible ways to reach out. That includes, meeting them offline wherever possible. Like meeting them online through probably some webinars, things like this. Working with consulting companies. Also, of course, this is a super important channel, is a referral channel.
Hmm.
Like if we have successful clients and they're happy about our services, and they want to continue work with us, we will probably develop this kind of referral program
Hmm.
for them. So yeah, this we haven't been very active yet, but we will definitely explore a lot of those ways.
From a broad legal, I guess, legal industry perspective, do you think that AI could replace, I don't want to say lawyers, but you think that it could replace, it certainly in your case replaces a lot of manual labor, or physical labor, how you want to say it. But do you think it can well, I guess, no, you just start there. Like, do you think the AI can, I don't think it can replace lawyers, right? But what do you think?
Yeah. So yeah, I also don't think it will fully replace lawyers, right? It's definitely not going to happen, and there are multiple reasons for that. So, I think
A robot
just
can't
from the
argue for you.
client, yeah, just from the client's point of view, think about it. Like, would you agree with the situation that that everything is decided by AI? And look, AI makes mistakes. Like it's by their nature, it's unavoidable that AI will make mistakes because AI is trained on some particular corpus of data, and like the
Uh-huh.
way how it's trained is to minimize the error. So it's not deterministic. It's often correct, very often, like depending on what's the level of error, but inevitably it does make mistakes in some edge cases. And there should be a way to kind of fix those errors if they happen. So the client would like to have a way to kind of review the result of the outcome of what AI does. So from this point of view, I don't believe in like fully automated solutions for litigation or yeah, like some resolving
Right.
these conflicts. But obviously the role of AI is going to increase and increase by a lot. Like right now, a lot of process in the litigation process overall, they are not very efficient. And I already mentioned a few earlier. Like one of them is again document review, and I think that was quite impressive for me when I heard that, is that it's like totally fine. It's the industry standard to reach 75% of recall for document review. And what it means is that
Hmm.
25%, a quarter of actually relevant documents might not be produced. And that's kind of fine. Everyone is okay with that as long as you show that you produce at least 75 of what you should have, you are okay. So definitely, yeah, I can reach this bar and surpass this bar. Yeah, so the standard will be higher. I think this is where AI definitely will help, but also other parts. And I know other startups who also employ AI for their particular cases, narrow cases. like preparing some document drafts, preparing, I think it's called demands,
Uh-huh.
other things. So yeah, I think there will be a lot of benefits for clients, first of all. And um, this is due to this kind of use of AI for particular use cases.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating. Do you think that the legal industry is ready for this type of you call it software or tool because
Um,
they're so accustomed? Do they need to be trained to how to use it? Is it difficult to,
yeah,
things like that?
yeah, I think they definitely need to be kind of trained and learn what are limitations of this approach. I think the whole work of the lawyers will switch from doing actual work to rather communicating with AI and supervising the results of what AI produces. And again, simple example is document drafting, right? So instead of knowing yourself what should be kind of written and so on, you would just type, oh, okay, I need a document, like a draft of an agreement for that, that, and that. And then you would review the result.
Uh-huh.
You would say, okay, I need to fix that. I need to add that part. But you already have this kind of hot start from what you work with. And the same things will happen in other cases. Again, because in the legal industry, there should be people responsible for things. It's very hard to make AI responsible. That would probably not be a kind of a viable business model for the AI companies to be responsible for the outcome. But yeah, people will definitely be in the kind of in the loop of this process to at least be responsible for the outcome.
Yeah, that's really well put. I think that yeah, supervise what the results are rather than just do everything it says, right? I think there's maybe that misnomer that yeah, like how we spoke about a little bit earlier, how AI is always right when it's really just human interpretation, or it could be wrong
Yeah,
too, right? If it's trained wrong, or just it could just be wrong for whatever reason. But
yeah.
where do you see the industry going, I guess, when it comes to the AI intertwined with the where do you see both industries going with the law and AI? Do you think that it's gonna have regulations on it, or do you think it's a pretty open playing field when it comes to the adoption of new products that enhance, workflows
Um,
and
Yeah, I think it's going to be driven by actual practice, and there should be kind of a common agreement where AI can be applied or cannot be applied. And I know that there was a famous case when one of the lawyers, I believe, they cited the wrong precedents, and like they just asked GPT like to provide some precedents similar to the case that they have, and GPT just invented them. And I think it created a lot of buzz there. Some companies put put kind of hold the all use of GPT-like models for whatever cases they have until they develop an internal policy of how this can be used. So yeah, from
yeah,
this point
yeah,
of
yeah.
view, they yeah, there should be a common understanding between practitioners, judges, clients of what AI is capable and not capable of doing. Again, coming back to the same example with document review, I believe that at some point in like few years, we will probably see the demand from the judges to use these AI-based services for document review, just because the quality they can provide is much, much higher than what human can do. And probably similar things happen in other cases.
No, yeah, very fascinating stuff. Do you think that so I guess like a byproduct of your guys' software is does it I don't know how to say it, like does it get rid of jobs to some extent, or does it just do you think it
Um,
um
I
how
would
does that work?
say that it does get rid of very tedious and not productive jobs, those jobs that like not kind of developing yourself in what you're doing. I think the overall process will not make like the amount of jobs probably much less. There will be some decrease, but those who remain in the field, they will be doing more productive work. The price will go down for the clients, but it will happen just because each attorney will be able to serve more clients at the same time. So I think it's beneficial for every participant in this industry, like including attorneys, including clients, and also, well, us as service providers.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Yeah, I guess a couple more quick questions here, Sergey. It's been really interesting to learn about the space. I think that law is always, something that I took a law class, for instance, in school, and I would just find like looking at black and white text was not enjoyable at all. So I guess
Yeah.
from that perspective, you save a lot of that manual work, right? Reading through and matching documents and seeing if they're applicable or not, right? That's kind of what it is in
Yeah.
a side sense. Quick question, Sergey. Do you think that the product eventually grows into a lot of other services too? Not just that we mentioned, but do you think you guys have do you have plans to grow it into other areas
Might
that
be.
you guys?
It definitely might be. Yeah. I see a lot of opportunities there. I think the ultimate goal is to help settle cases on earlier stage.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a very far this goal is far away at this point, because like we should establish ourselves as a company which does the good job in the current pipelines of how the litigation process works,
Mm-hmm.
and then we will be able to gradually offer more and more, but already having the trust from the clients. So yeah, again, the goal is pretty clear. We want to make like this process of figuring out who is right and who is wrong pretty efficient as possible. Yeah, there will probably be a lot of kind of ideas how exactly this can be done.
Right.
But yeah, I think it will be more than just the discovery service.
So one last question, or one last question before we get into the last set of questions, Sergey, was when somebody finds out the information that Beagle provides, what do they do with that information? Is it they just send the documents that are appropriate over and that's it, or is there more to that process, or to
So
other
do
parties?
you mean how we currently work with the clients?
Sure, sure. So let's say I'm a client, or let's say there's a
Yeah,
client and they use your product and now they have all the information that they needed to be extracted about the documents. What do they do
yeah,
from there? Is it they just continue
yeah.
with the case as normal, or is it?
So we need to figure out their needs first,
Oh,
what's their current situation. We need them to provide us the data, because document collection is not that straightforward process. Well, it is in some simple cases, but if it is a large client, usually it means that there are a lot of documents on different devices, and you can't just copy, files from there, because that would alter the metadata that they have. So one of the challenges is to collect them in the right way. This is the part we don't want to implement by ourselves, at least at this point, and
hmm.
want to work with the data that are already provided. But yeah, when it comes to the point when we have them, then we again ask what the client's needs are right now, like what are their deadlines, or like do they want to do some additional analysis, probably, and so on, and yeah, we just start from there.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. One more thing was I gonna say. How does what was I gonna say? No, I guess that was it. Yeah. Or actually, from an entrepreneurship perspective, how do you decide what to spend most of the capital on? Is it more into R&D or for AI startup, I guess in general, like do you decide that funding goes towards more research and development, or is it more,
Yeah,
salaries?
so
How does that get figured out?
so our strategy is pretty simple. We want to become um, profitable as soon as possible. Um, uh, and I think I don't invent a wheel here, but yeah, it means that we need to develop the MVP that we can sell to the clients, and I think we already there. So yeah, it's again pretty clear priority. We do what the clients will like to work with. It doesn't mean what the clients necessarily want, because the clients may not exactly know what will they like in the future. But yeah, we try to understand clients' needs as much as possible and the whole process, and offer the product that they will want to use. And based on that, we already decide, oh, okay, we probably need to focus on this feature. Let's spend like capital here, and or okay, we want to reach out to the client, and this is another thing. Again, if we have a perfect product which everyone in the world would want to use, but they don't know about us, it doesn't make any sense. So of course, some portion of a capital goes to reaching out to the client, and at least some efforts go there. So yeah, it is about um, just developing a great product and selling it.
That's a really good point. Sorry to maybe that's the answer to this question, but what do you think makes a successful startup in your opinion? Is it just revenue in the bank, or there's so many aspects, right, to a business that you
Yeah,
can't really.
I think there are multiple components, but the core of them, the core components are the principles. So the team needs to have a vision. That's first thing. Like everyone, especially on the earlier stages, they need to have like a big vision of where all of this might go, and why people who are involved in that, why they are doing this. Because on the later stage, yeah, the incentives are different. Like the incentives might be simple, because this earns me money, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's it. But yeah, I think when, especially on the early stages, and probably on the later ones, when you want to hire people to some executive positions, they need to understand why they spend a portion of their lifetime working on this particular company and doing some particular work, because there are multiple possibilities, especially for a very talented people. Why you, like, why not someone else? I think this is a super important thing, and it allows to attract best talents. Second is that yeah, you should have principles of how exactly you operate. You have some kind of, I would say, culture of work, like, and this is what also the management sets up. This includes like kind of how you operate in your everyday life, how you communicate with others, like how much you meet the expectations, and like meet the promises that you make, and things like this. What else? Hiring. Yeah,
All right, right.
you should
Hiring, that's a
hire.
whole different thing.
Yeah, hiring is always super important, of course, because I think it's very connected to the culture. Like you have to look not only to how talented people are, but also, again, if they
Yeah,
fit
yeah.
the company's culture. Yeah, and fourth thing, I would say, it's the right incentives. Yeah, if you have right people with right incentives and the clear goal, your company can do a lot.
I like that. Couple quick questions here, Sergey, that we like to ask founders are, if you could give advice to 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now, how would you communicate what you know now to what your past knew?
I won't say buy Bitcoin,
Oh yeah, right. That's a common one. I get that often.
Yeah. But yeah, of course, like if you don't talk about like financial advice, um, I I would say that, hey, go for PhD earlier
Go for a
and
PhD.
prepare better for it. Yeah, and I think yeah, this decision actually was a bit spontaneous in my case.
The
Yeah, I
PhD
was
or
yes, yes,
uh-huh.
yes. I was thinking about like other possibilities as well, and yeah, I didn't have this on my radar, but that was kind of a situation that one of my colleagues, not colleagues, but yeah, people. One of the guys who I studied with, he joined another PhD program, and I was started to consider this opportunity as well. I think if I was preparing earlier, I would be able to join kind of another group, and probably I would be able to make more during my PhD time. Um, so yeah, that would be probably more beneficial for the whole career. But yeah, otherwise I'm pretty happy with how it was, and I wouldn't change that much.
If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would it be with for business purpose? Or like just in general to learn something.
Yeah. Look, I have a few ideas which are not actually related to like legal industry or things like this, but in general they are about economics, about some monetary policy things, about some political economics. So I would like to speak with the guys from that field. Probably Darna Simoglu is one of them, and the guys who were the chairs of Federal Reserve
Oh, sure.
are probably others. Yeah, I think yeah,
That's a good one.
like Ben Bernanke, Janet Yellen,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Powell, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Paul.
one quick last question we got here is one more thing is if you had any books, has there been any books that influence you to that you found especially useful as a founder or
Yeah,
anything in your career?
yeah. Yeah, I'll just mention the recent that I read. It's a pretty small one. It's a book from Ryan Breslow about fundraising. I
Oh, okay.
think it's pretty small, yeah, like probably 50 pages or so. It's not really like a whole book, but yeah, pretty condensed knowledge about fundraising and about how this should be structured. So yeah, I recommend founders to read that.
Oh, gotcha. I'll put that on the list. What's it called? Last question here, Sergey, is what is your startup mindset?
Yeah, I would say that we are pretty focused on the client's needs, and again, this doesn't mean that we just do exactly what clients ask us to do, but rather we figure out what would be the most useful for them in the current situations, and we try to kind of think in this direction, and everything else is attached to that. So I believe that if we again deliver the right product to the clients, it will do it will make the startup successful overall in all other aspects as well. So yeah, that's why it's pretty important to have this connection, strong connection, and fast communication between those who understand client needs and those who do the actual work. So yeah, that's what we try to build.
I got you. Yeah, it was good talking to you. Last thing here is how do people, maybe they're lawyers or they know people in the legal profession, sign up for Beagle? Is it through the website? And or is it through
Yeah,
you? How do you do it?
at this point, we have the wait list, and yeah, we have our email there, so they are free to just sign up, and either we reach them out, or yeah, they just reach out to us, and we reach out to them after that.
Is there a thing like a trial, or is it just they try and how do they have to pay for it? Like, is
Yeah,
it
so usually, yeah, once we have a request, at the available time, we have a scheduled meeting where we explain more in details of what exactly Beagle can provide, how it works, what's the services, what's the fee structure, and so on and so on. And given their situation, we can decide
gotcha.
if and how this can be suitable.
Wow, well, Sergey, it was really good speaking to you. I'm excited for Beagle and how it can help lawyers and help justice be what do you call that? Justice happen just more smoother. So thank you.